Hello everyone, so we have it again, and this is the next winter. I haven't shown a lot of videos or updates of sorts over the past year, basically, and I get that. I'm sorry, I apologize for that, as usual. I will say that maybe that's just what this channel is. Maybe that's just the way I'll be posting. I'll be posting every once in a while, but as long as I'm able to be here for the most important parts, then I think we can make this work. I think I can make this update work. So, basically, no matter what, we have some snow to get into, and we're going to try to make this short as possible, but still get all the information across. So, let's go. Alright everyone, so this is the storm that we're watching. A major winter storm, as it says on the National Weather Local Radar. This is for all of these areas that you can see in the blue or the purple. Maine, of course, a lot of snow there. New Hampshire, down to Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and a little bit on the backside here in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York. So, this is apparently named Ember. That's just what the National Weather Service calls it. I also don't have a naming list for these major storm systems here. I feel like it's unnecessary, but at least in my opinion. So, we actually have a lot of winter storms. So, let's go to the HRRR model, because now we can see the specifics of the storm. So, let's go to the northeast. That is where this, wrong region. Let's go to the northeast. There it is, and you can see there already is a lot of snow in the region now. Up in here in New Jersey, near my location, it is actually snowing here, all around this area. And in Pennsylvania, there's actually extremely heavily snow, very close to the border there with rain and ice. There actually is a tiny bit of ice you can see in Virginia, in some of those regions close to Leesburg, down towards Strasburg, and some of those northwestern Virginia areas near Shenandoah National Park. Also, a little bit in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, we're also experiencing some ice, and even close to Baltimore, and some of those regions in the northern portion of the state, such as Bel Air. Also up there, you can see Aberdeen. You can see there is a bit of an ice risk. Even up here in Ohio, we are seeing stuff. Let's move on a little bit. This is as of around 2 p.m. latest on Saturday, January 6, 2024. This is for what it would be called Winter Storm Ember by the National, by the Weather Channel. That's what it's called, sorry. The Weather Channel. Over here you can see heavy snow in these regions that were previously hit by ice, mostly in southern Pennsylvania. You can see towards Bedford, Pennsylvania, Breezewood, and also up into some of these more mountainous areas. You can see the snow definitely is scattered. There is a lot of heavier regions than lighter regions, especially since it's a mountainous terrain. The mountainous terrain will have the most snow, but as the storm continues, it even brings some snow to Long Island. And what we actually know from this storm is one of the few storms that has brought snow in the last few years. This might be the most major snowstorm for some of these areas, especially into southeastern Pennsylvania, here in New Jersey, and on Long Island, since basically 2022. We didn't really have much snow last winter, so this will definitely change things, and we can expect that all the way here from, this is around 9 p.m.? No, it's around 7 p.m. We can expect more snow. Now it's heavier closer to State College, and this snow will continue for quite a while. Of course, then we have this one heavy snow band. Of course, then you can see a little bit of rain now enters into the New York City region. Since the low is close, that means warm air is being pelted up by the low because of its circulation. So you may notice some rain entering now into the New York City area and no longer snow in Long Island. That's because of warm air kick-up by this low pressure system. And that also may be a result in severe weather down in Florida, which I'll show you in a second. But you can see this heavy snow band in northern New Jersey is continuing to move now up into New York, and now you can see the heaviest snow has shifted east, as well as the ice band. We see some sleet now heading into Clinton, New Jersey, some of those western areas in New Jersey close to Phillipsburg, down into Pennsylvania. I just know these locations. I've just been looking at them recently. You can look down into eastern Pennsylvania and Allentown. There will be a little bit of ice. It's very low accumulations. You can see it only approaches for around an hour or so. Later it turns, oh, well, actually, no. This ice sleet continues for a little bit. It continues for a little bit, but then those regions in Allentown start to get rid of that snow. This is around 11 p.m., and you can see the snow, now the heaviest snow is in the Catskills, down into southeastern New York, towards Monticello, down towards New Paltz, and some of those regions into southern upstate New York. And you can see a lot of these areas have actually now transitioned into rain. So you might get snow at first, but then a little rain is going to come in. You also might get that sleet if you're a little farther northwest. One thing to note, there will be definitely a lot of contrast in these accumulations in just a few miles. Some areas might get up to 5-10 inches of snow even, and then 20 miles to the southeast, you're only going to see rain. It's a very confusing situation, but you see it with a lot of these snowstorms. And actually, these kind of look like some supercellular type things. Maybe not supercellular. On this model, this is not the supercellular stuff. But out to sea, you can see some heavy rain bands and maybe some thunderstorms. But that's out to sea. That's no problem for us, obviously. Maybe towards Bermuda, but we have to see. And you can see there actually is a little bit of ice in the New York City area. So, of course, not really many people are going to be driving around at midnight this is around. But still, we have to be concerned about this, as this is a little bit of ice here. And what you notice, a little bit more snow develops on the backside, and a little bit more ice. Down here, all the way towards Oil City, Pennsylvania, and Williamsport, you can see more snow is carrying in. A lot of cold air is now moving in this direction. This storm is rotating. It's actually counterclockwise. So instead, the snow from the main area of the low pressure system, now heaviest over Boston as of 2 a.m., is now being dragged back over into Pennsylvania. So that's where you'll get the snow again in some regions of New Jersey, northern Pennsylvania. And this is where the model ends at around 8 a.m. Standard Time. No. 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is not a very big snowstorm. For some of these regions, you may notice it is much larger. Down into West Virginia, you're going to get a heavy snow band. You're going to get pounded with snow, especially in the early evening. But by the time you reach overnight, the snow's already going to be gone. It's very quick hitting. It's not going to last for long. So we're not going to see any big accumulations. If you want to see the full storm, you have to look to some of those longer scale models. So let's look at the NAM 4 kilometer. My dad was just there. NAM 3 kilometers. So let's look in northeast once again. And I'm not going to be on this storm forever. I'm going to quickly move into the severe weather. You can see this is much more pushing for some snow amounts. You can see already some snow, extremely heavy amounts in the I-99 corridor in Pennsylvania. That will definitely cause some major traffic issues in that general region of the I-99 corridor into I-80. And this also shows a little bit more ice, especially in some of those more populated regions, such as Scranton, Pennsylvania, down into Lock Haven, Pennsylvania. A lot of these areas, and it's also showing much heavier rain. That band that it was showing you off the coast, it's on the coast this time, so that definitely will show a difference. Still some of that snow, and this does show that rain will eventually take over in New York City, which is the same as the other models, and that seems very likely, but the snow will actually be much heavier here around 10 p.m. This is 9 p.m. actually, and will hold out for a little bit longer in some of those regions. And we might see ice farther north, which actually is farther away from the population center, so that might let us worry about less. But you can see that clear transition between rain and snow, and for some of those regions, it's going to be kind of blurry. We're unsure if we're going to have rain or snow, even though this is so soon. This is so soon. We should know this by now, but sometimes it's just confusing, where you're on this line. We're unsure if you're going to get snow or rain, and you might as well get both. But here, it shows the cold air coming back a little bit, the resurge of cold air as the system, the counterclockwise motion, picks up more cold air or drags it backwards. And you can see, this is what we're talking about. Then the snow is going to return back in New Jersey, Pennsylvania. That is what we're more seeing. Only for a moment, only for a few hours we're going to see that snow, and then it'll turn into nothing. But definitely interesting what the NAM 3 kilometers says. I presume that the HRRR would say something similar, but it just doesn't go out for that long. And that's about it for the snow. As we enter into, around, let's say 5 p.m. on Sunday, we're not going to see anything anymore. Maybe for Boston, you'll still get some snow, but that's about it. So anyways, let's look at the accumulations. Let me just see if I can get it here. Total snowfall. And the NAM 3 kilometer, I will say, is a little bit intense with the snow estimates, more so than the GFS or say some of those other models. So don't take this with a grain of salt. But you can see we get around 4 inches, a little less, 2 inches in New York City, which is not a lot. Some of those locations in northern New Jersey, we still get up to a foot, which I presume will not happen. I don't think that's going to occur as you approach towards these counties over here. And a few areas with a foot, I believe those are called the Shawagonk Mountains. There might be some large snow amounts on those ridges. Personally, I do not think this is going to be the case. We're going to look at the HRRR and what it says. Of course, that won't be the entire snowstorm, but I feel like these totals should be moved a little farther southwest. It doesn't seem like we're going to get a foot in these locations. Up towards Boston, you could get around 6-7 inches, down towards Plymouth, also around 5 inches, and up towards Portland, York, those regions, you could get another foot, and that might be more likely, especially with how far north these places are. In the later areas of the storm, you could get a lot more snow, so it's a general 3 to 6 inches you would see, at least on those border areas between the rain and the snow. Let's look back at the HRRR model to see what it says. And here we go. Let me just get it real quickly. Tropical tidbits. And it's showing a similar picture, I would say. Let me just see the regions. Northeast. And then precipitation moisture. Here you can see there is no feet with this system. And it is only around 10 inches in those areas, Shawagonk Mountains, close to Scranton. And it's even less in New York City, probably only an inch. In Boston, it's only around 4 inches. And far south into Cape Cod, it's only around 1 inches. So that is not a lot. And it's definitely interesting to notice the difference between certain models. You can get a lot of snow, you can't get a lot of snow. There's still disagreement, no matter how close we are to the storm itself. There's always going to be disagreement, especially in these close situations here, as the population centers are going to be right on the line between rain and snow. But you can see there's still going to be some amounts back here towards, I believe that is the Bloomsburg area. There's still going to be 8 inches. And up here into the Catskills, still going to be 8 inches. All of those regions will still experience quite a bit. So, that's enough for the snow. Well, is it? See, this is not going to be the only storm we're going to see. I've told you that there's multiple storms that are going to bring snow. But what is this other storm I'm talking about? Well, we have to go a little bit farther out for this. We have to go to the GFS model on tropical tidbits. As, of course, this storm isn't a day later, just like this storm. It appears a little bit earlier. Later, I meant. This storm is what we're talking about. And you can see this definitely looks concerning. Also, the severe weather. Let me break down that for a moment. we are going to be talking about severe weather a lot over the next few days. It's not just the snow. You can see there is a large surge of some of that moisture off the coast of South Carolina, and a lot of bands are starting to get a lot of that moisture through Florida. There is a small tornado risk today. Let me show you the SPC outlook first. SPC, there is a 5% tornado risk today down here in Florida. Let me just pull that up real quickly. 5% tornado risk. It used to be 5% tornado risk, my correction. It is now only 2%. The main risk was this morning, but you can still see maybe a tornado or two down between Fort Lauderdale, the Sunrise, Florida area, near the I-75 corridor in that region. So, we aren't really expecting tornadoes anymore here, but we still have that possibility, and I don't know, we'll see something probably. But we still have a slight risk down here, mostly for the wind, and you can see there is a 15% risk there. But it's not the only convective outlook we have. Day 3, a slight risk for this entire area of the Dixie Alley, up here towards Beaumont, Texas, Houston, Texas, Lake Charles, Louisiana, even up into Alexandria, Louisiana, and Lafayette, down here into the Dauphin, Alabama region. And that's right where the border between the slight and marginal risk is, and also in Panama City, all those northwestern Florida Gulf Coast cities, into Mobile, Alabama, and a little bit up there into Enterprise, Alabama, and Jackson, Alabama, and also into southern Mississippi, of course, towards Bay Springs, down into Vicksburg, and even to Jackson. This is a very typical area in the winter to experience severe weather, so this is not out of the ordinary, but we still have to pay attention to it, because this could bring a tornado risk. It's not showing it yet, we're still too far out to determine that, but it is very possible. There is a high probability of some tornadoes, and I am going to show that here on the GFS model, which shows it fairly nicely. Let me just go to chocolate tidbits. Sorry about that. Anyways, you can see across the country, this is the current storm. But besides that, this thing, we have this storm, 1,004 millibars, that's fairly low, but it doesn't really show its true glory until, BAM! A huge area of snow and rain starts to develop, and you can see there is a lot of precipitation here in southeastern Louisiana, into the Shelf Coast there, into the outer banks of Louisiana. I don't know what they're actually called. The Creole Islands, maybe? No, that's also in Georgia. And also you can see it has a lot of rain, likely, in the swamp areas of the southeast, so we have to pay attention to that, but also some snow. Also snow on the backside of this in Kansas, into Texas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, into northern Missouri, and into Nebraska, into South Dakota, Minnesota. Some of the regions that may be impacted from heavy snow, we all have to see, as that is actually not even the heaviest part. You can see major snow now into Lawrence, Kansas, Kansas City, Kansas, and Missouri. A lot of heavy snow bands there. And into the northern Midwest, there is a little bit of a warm bubble over here because of the direction of the rotation of the storm. A lot of moisture being sucked in all the way up into Indiana, South Bend, Indiana, into Kalamazoo, Michigan, and Ohio. We're not going to see a lot of snow because of that. You can also see another snow from a different system, which actually may also be a significant severe weather threat. We'll get into that later again, up here in the Pacific Northwest. But you can see there is quite a bit of snow here. But the main concern, because of all that warm air being sucked into the system from the Gulf, is severe weather. You can see these major wind areas. It's probably not wind. We have to see the wind. We have to go to the 850 millibar height and wind, and it is insane up here. You can see 80 knot winds up to 90 knot winds for this whole region. I believe these are measured in knots. And that is definitely insane, which means we're going to have a lot of wind shear, because if you look in some of those higher dynamics, 500 millibars high normally, that is the warmth, sorry about that, 500 millibar wind, 300k wind, you can see this is around 75 knots, and while it's going to be similar, there's definitely going to be some wind shear here. Let's look at the models, let's look at the wind shear icons here. This is insane. Now, one thing to note, it's just in the upper levels, so that might not be as supporting of tornadoes and stuff, but if we look down here further towards the Gulf Coast, this does look a little concerning, but we won't see the true glory until we get right along the Gulf Coast. Now, this is definitely a little different. You can see a large curve there, and that might be enough to spout some tornado genesis. Also, damaging winds. Of course, these are extremely strong rain, so it's likely we're going to see extremely strong winds with that. As this front pushes through, fairly quickly, I might add, you can see a lot of regular curves here, so that might not be super inclined for tornadoes. But of course, also, I was checking during midnight. That's not when we're usually going to see tornadoes, even though there might still be a normal amount of wind shear. This is insane. Definitely a lot of twists and turns with this, especially in the lower levels, but especially actually in the higher levels. On that note, down here off the coast of Louisiana, we're going to have even more wind shear, but of course, that's right off the coast there, but if one of those supercells that may form from this gets onto land, then we know what's going to happen. Anyways, going back to the regular stuff, I guess the typical, animation map, this is going to continue, and you can see strong winds from this as this, cold front slams through the whole region, and strong winds here in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. And there's going to be another severe weather risk. If you look at the upper dynamics down into the 500 millibar height anomaly, there is going to be a huge trough here, which will definitely promote some warm air to move into here. And let's look at the 850 millibar height. It is insane, the winds up there, and that is not even that far up. That's only 850 millibars, which is only around, I would say, maybe a mile or so above your head. So that means that we're going to see these extreme winds helping to form the middle part of these clouds, and that will definitely cause to a lot of shear. So honestly, I might even add it, this part past the Appalachian Mountains might even have more wind shear. I mean, you can see in the upper levels the wind shear still dominates, but we may actually have a higher risk here. You can see this looping motion. Than what we see in the Dixie Alley itself. This is more the southeast. So that will be pretty interesting. We don't usually see those patterns. And these winds go absolutely bonkers. I don't know why I said that, but these winds go absolutely insane as they approach New Jersey, Long Island. Of course, we're not going to see severe weather there. That's a little too far north at this time. But we will still see unbelievable winds. The winds are going to be unbelievable. But you know what is going to be the most unbelievable? The rain. This is extremely heavy amounts in the Northeast and in North Carolina, Virginia. There's going to be extreme rainfall amounts. I'm not saying as specific locations, precise locations, of course, since this is pretty wide out. But definitely an insane amount of rainfall. This is going to be a major flooding situation. In the Northeast, there's one band, and in the Southeast, there's another band. Both of those regions maybe have flooding concerns on their own, but this is definitely going to be something else. Huge amounts of rainfall, and a little bit after the storm passes through, at around 7 p.m. on Wednesday. The main time we're going to see the flooding is Tuesday night. So Tuesday night, all across the East Coast, really, we're going to see major rainfall, and flash flooding is likely. I don't know where those SBC flood outlooks are. Let me look at them. Excessive rainfall outlooks. So let's look at day 5. That isn't too bad, but when you see day 4, this is insane. So you can see there is a moderate risk, and moderate risks are fairly rare for these flash flood risks. You don't want to see moderate risk, as it means that there's a 40% or higher risk for seeing flash floods or an excessive rate of rainfall. And you can see the main area in concern is that area in the Northeast, into Pennsylvania. I wish I could zoom in. Oh, I can. Into Pennsylvania, down here into New Jersey. This will include Trenton, New Jersey, into, some of those other regions in the upper Delaware River Valley. And there is also a slight risk, at least 15% chance for excessive rainfall all across the East Coast here. In the Piedmont, you have to worry from Charlotte to Greensboro, North Carolina, and Greenville, South Carolina. And it's going to be pretty intense up there into the northeast, too. There's going to be 2 separate areas for flash flooding, it seems. So this storm is not to be taken lightly for the severe weather, the flooding, and even the snow. You might have seen there was intense snow on the backside in Illinois, in that general region. Let me go back to it, just to show you. The total accumulations. Now, this is also occurring with the storm we're experiencing right now. This is including that storm as well. So let's look at the total snowfall. Of course, that's not what I'm looking for. But you can see as this storm passes through, there's a huge band moving through central and northern Illinois, right near Chicago. Pay attention closely to some of these areas in Illinois, especially as we continue into the 5-day period. All the way down here to Hannibal, Missouri, into Peoria, Illinois, we're going to see a foot. We're going to see a foot of snow, and these areas have not been used to this snow amount. We saw it last year, and that is most likely what we're going to see a similar amount to now. And really, this isn't the very northern regions. This is a little farther south, at least in the central U.S. It's not going to be up towards Minnesota. No, it's going to be in those far southern regions, much more populated. So we have to worry about this. This is definitely going to be a major snow situation, and we can worry or celebrate for that, depending on how you feel. And then, if we continue this, what is going on here? So then we have another system, and this one is further east, and now we have 2 feet of snow in Ohio, which actually, you might have seen a little bit of a gap of snow before, but that was completely disproven as this likely even stronger storm comes in, and this is only around 8 days from now. This is Sunday, January 14th, back into Saturday, January 13th. We are going to see up to 2 feet of snow close to Dayton, Springfield, Ohio, and into Indiana towards Vincennes, and also Evansville. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing any of those names. It is going to be a very active period, and of course, that's probably due to El Nino and other factors. It's a very active January, and that's definitely the activity we usually see in January. So, we have a lot to talk about, and I'll continue to post updates, try to continue to post updates as we move on, but that's the general picture we're seeing. It's definitely going to be a lot of snow, a lot of severe weather, and a lot of other stuff. So, that's it. Anyways, guys, that's about it what I have for you. Let me just show you something collectively interesting. Yep, it is snowing where I am, and just as I had foretold, you can see it is accumulating, and yeah, that is what we're going to be expecting. These small accumulations for this first snow system, which is currently ongoing now, as you can see. And a little furthermore than that, we'll have to wait and see how much snow we're going to get. And with these other storms, you have to focus on these other storms. You might get this, you might get a entire foot of snow on the ground. We'll just have to wait and see. But anyways, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Make sure to subscribe and like. I don't care if you dislike. If you really didn't like this video, fine, dislike. But anyways, turn on the notifications to the bell icon right next to the subscribe button. And, you know, it's always just easier for you to enjoy yourself if you travel on the Moyes Data on the Road freeway. Goodbye, guys.